Hello, everyone. I'm Natasha, your host for today. If you're new here, I want you to know that we upload new English learning videos every day to help you improve your English faster. In today's lesson, you will not only build your English listening skills, but also strengthen your speaking and fluency. We're going to explore something very practical and very useful for every English learner. 125 English phrases that every intermediate learner must know to become fluent in English. These are real phrases that people use in daily life conversations, and learning them will make your English sound more natural and confident. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand these phrases, but also practice them with me through exercises that will help you speak smoothly and without hesitation. Whether you're ordering food, chatting with friends, asking questions, or sharing your opinions, these phrases will become part of your daily English toolbox. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss any of our English learning lessons. So, take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get started with our 125 powerful English phrases that will bring you closer to fluency. So, let's begin with our first set of phrases. As an intermediate learner, you already know a lot of English words and grammar, but the real key to fluency is being able to use phrases that fit naturally into conversation. Phrases are like ready-made building blocks. Instead of thinking word by word, you can just take the whole phrase and use it directly in real life. This makes your speech smoother, faster, and more natural. Let's start with one of the most common types of phrases you'll need: greetings and everyday openers. These are short but powerful because they set the tone of any conversation. For example, instead of always saying, "How are you?" you can expand your range with phrases like, "How's it going?" or "What have you been up to?" Notice how these phrases feel warmer and more conversational. Practice with me now. Repeat after me slowly. How's it going? What have you been up to? Excellent. Now imagine you meet a friend at a cafe. Instead of just saying hello, you can say, "Hey, long time no see. How have you been?" This instantly sounds more natural and friendly. Another useful phrase is, "I'm glad to see you." You can use it with friends, family, or colleagues to show warmth and positivity. Try saying it aloud now. "I'm glad to see you." Good. Notice how it adds emotion and makes your English more alive. Let's move on to phrases you can use when you don't understand something. In daily conversations, it's normal to miss a word or not catch something clearly. Instead of just saying "what" or "repeat," you can use smoother phrases like, "Sorry, I didn't catch that," or "Could you say that again, please?" These phrases make you sound polite and fluent at the same time. Practice with me. "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say that again, please?" Excellent. Imagine you are in a busy restaurant and the waiter tells you today's special but speaks too fast. You can simply say, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again?" This shows confidence and politeness together. Now let's practice phrases for giving your opinion. As an intermediate learner, you need to go beyond just saying, "I think," every time. Of course, "I think" is correct, but it can feel repetitive. Try these alternatives. "In my opinion," "from my point of view," The way I see it. Each of these sounds natural and will help you express yourself more like a fluent speaker. Say them with me. In my opinion, from my point of view, the way I see it. Great. Now imagine you are in a class discussion about technology. Instead of saying, I think technology is important, you can say, from my point of view, technology plays a big role in our lives today. Doesn't that sound smoother and more advanced? Let's also explore agreement phrases. In conversations, we often want to agree with someone politely instead of always saying yes or I agree. Try phrases like, that's so true. I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. These are very natural and used often by native speakers. Repeat after me. That's so true. I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. Wonderful. Picture yourself in a conversation with a friend who says, learning English takes time and practice. You can respond with, you're absolutely right, it really does. This kind of phrase keeps the conversation flowing, naturally. Now let's move on to disagreement phrases. Sometimes you won't fully agree with someone, but you still need to be polite. Instead of bluntly saying no or I disagree, you can use phrases like, I see your point, but I'm not so sure about that. That's one way to look at it, but these softening phrases make your English sound more respectful and professional. Practice with me now. I see your point, but I'm not so sure about that. That's one way to look at it, but excellent. Imagine a friend says, I think learning grammar is boring. You can reply, I see your point, but I think grammar is still useful for building strong English. Notice how it feels polite and diplomatic. Now let's add some everyday casual phrases. These are the ones that make you sound friendly and natural when chatting with people. For example, instead of just saying, okay, try, sounds good to me. Or, instead of saying, I understand, you can say, I get what you mean. Repeat after me. Sounds good to me. I get what you mean. Nice. Imagine someone suggests meeting tomorrow after work. Instead of only saying, okay, you can respond, sounds good to me, let's do it. This makes you sound more relaxed and natural in conversation. Here's another one. When you want to show interest in someone's story, don't just say, really, every time. Try, no way. That's interesting. Or, you're kidding. These short responses keep conversations lively and show that you're engaged. Practice aloud. No way. That's interesting. You're kidding. Excellent. For example, your friend says, I just got a new job in another city. You can respond, no way, that's amazing. This shows your excitement and interest. Now let's go into polite request phrases. As an intermediate learner, you should avoid sounding too direct. Instead of, give me your phone, you can say, could you give me your phone, please? Or instead of, close the window, you can say, would you mind closing the window? These phrases are very important for sounding polite and fluent. Practice with me. Could you give me your phone, please? Would you mind closing the window? Great. Now imagine you're in an office and the window is open. Instead of saying, close the window, you ask, would you mind closing the window? The listener will feel more respected, and your English will sound smoother. Let's also look at phrases for showing gratitude. Of course, you already know thank you, but there are richer phrases you can use. For example, I really appreciate it. That means a lot to me. Thanks a million. These give your gratitude more emotion and naturalness. Say them with me. I really appreciate it. That means a lot to me. Thanks a million. Good. Imagine your colleague helps you finish a project. Instead of just saying thank you can say, I really appreciate it. That means a lot to me. This expresses deeper gratitude. Now let's practice phrases for giving compliments. Compliments are common in English and help build friendly connections. You can say, you did a great job. I love your idea. That's impressive. These phrases are short, but they carry strong positive energy. Repeat after me. You did a great job. I love your idea. That's impressive. Wonderful. Imagine your friend shows you their artwork. Instead of just saying good, you say, that's impressive. You did a great job. This makes your English sound more encouraging and friendly. Let's also add phrases for apologizing. Instead of only saying sorry, you can use, I'm really sorry about that. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to. These variations sound more natural in different situations. Say them aloud. I'm really sorry about that. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to. Great. Imagine you accidentally bump into someone on the street. Instead of only saying sorry, you can say, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean to. This shows sincerity and politeness. And now, let's explore phrases for closing conversations. Sometimes, you need to end a talk politely. Instead of only saying goodbye, you can say, it was nice talking to you. I'll catch up with you later. Let's stay in touch. These are friendly and very natural. Practice with me. It was nice talking to you. I'll catch up with you later. Let's stay in touch. Excellent. Imagine you finish a conversation with a classmate after school. Instead of saying just bye, you can say, it was nice talking to you. Let's stay in touch. This leaves a warm impression. Now let's move to phrases you can use when you need more time to think during conversations. As an intermediate learner, sometimes you know what you want to say, but you need a few seconds to organize your thoughts. Instead of staying silent or saying, you can use filler phrases that native speakers use all the time. For example, well, let me think. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that before. These phrases buy you time while keeping the conversation smooth. Practice with me now. Well, let me think. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that before. Excellent. Imagine someone asks you, what's your biggest dream in life? And you're not ready to answer. Instead of panicking, you can say, that's a good question. Let me think. This sounds natural and gives you space to prepare your answer. Another important group of phrases is for expressing surprise. Make your speech sound more lively. Instead of just saying, wow, you can say, that's unbelievable. I can't believe it. Are you serious? These are often used in daily conversations. Repeat after me. That's unbelievable. I can't believe it. Are you serious? Good. For example, your friend tells you they won a big prize. You can reply, That's unbelievable. I can't believe it. This shows emotion and keeps the conversation engaging. Now let's add some phrases for checking information. Sometimes you want to confirm if you understood correctly. Instead of saying what or say again, you can say, do you mean? So what you're saying is, just to be clear. These help you confirm politely while showing that you're paying attention. Say them aloud with me. Do you mean? So what you're saying is, just to be clear. Great. For example, if a teacher gives instructions and you're not sure, you can say, just to be clear, do we need to submit the assignment today or tomorrow? This is polite and effective. Let's now practice phrases for showing interest in others. Conversations are not just about talking, they are about listening and showing that you care. Instead of only saying okay, you can use phrases like, That's amazing, tell me more. Really? What happened next? I'd love to hear more about that. These phrases make the other person feel valued. Practice with me. That's amazing. Tell me more. Really? What happened next? I'd love to hear more about that. Wonderful. Imagine your friend is telling you about a holiday trip. Instead of saying just, okay, you say, That's amazing. Tell me more. This keeps the conversation alive and interesting. Now, let's learn phrases for making suggestions. Instead of always saying, let's do this, you can use softer, more natural phrases like, how about we? Why don't we? We could always try. These are very common in daily life and make your English sound more cooperative. Repeat after me. How about we? Why don't we? We could always try. Excellent. For example, imagine you and your friends are deciding where to eat. You can say, How about we try that new restaurant near the park? This sounds natural and friendly. Another key set of phrases are for showing you agree partly, but not completely. Instead of just saying yes or no, you can use middle ground phrases like, I see what you mean, but maybe. That's true. But on the other hand, you've got a point, but I think. These are great for discussions. Say them with me. I see what you mean, but maybe. That's true, but on the other hand. You've got a point, but I think. Good. Imagine someone says, Studying vocabulary is enough to become fluent. You can reply, That's true, but on the other hand, practicing speaking is also very important. This makes you sound thoughtful and fluent. Now let's practice phrases for showing excitement. You already know I'm happy, but you can expand your range with I'm so excited about this. I can't wait. This is going to be great. These add energy to your conversations. Repeat after me. I'm so excited about this. I can't wait. This is going to be great. Excellent. For example, your friend invites you to a weekend party. You can reply, I can't wait. This is going to be great. Your English will sound full of life. Let's also learn phrases for calming situations. Sometimes you need to reassure someone. Instead of just saying, it's okay, you can say, don't worry, everything will be fine. Take it easy. It's not the end of the world. These are very natural in daily life. Practice with me. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Take it easy. It's not the end of the world. Good. Imagine your friend is stressed about an exam. You can say, take it easy. It's not the end of the world. You'll do great. This feels supportive and fluent. And now let's look at some transition phrases. Says, these help you connect ideas smoothly when you speak. Instead of stopping awkwardly, you can use phrases like, by the way, speaking of which. That reminds me. These are powerful for making your speech flow. Say them aloud with me. By the way, speaking of which. That reminds me. Excellent. Imagine you're talking about movies with a friend, and suddenly you remember something. You can say, speaking of which, have you seen the new movie that just came out? This keeps the conversation smooth. Finally, let's add some phrases for ending conversations politely in formal situations. For example, at work or in a meeting, instead of just saying goodbye, you can say, thank you for your time. I look forward to our next meeting. It was a pleasure talking with you. These are professional and polite. Repeat after me. Thank you for your time. I look forward to our next meeting. It was a pleasure talking with you. Great. Imagine you finish a job interview. Instead of saying bye, you can say, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure talking with you. I look forward to our next meeting. This leaves a professional impression. Now let's move into phrases you can use to show curiosity. Being curious in English conversations makes you sound engaged and interested in others. Instead of only asking why or how, you can expand your questions with phrases like, what made you decide that? How did that happen? What's the story behind that? These are great for deeper conversations. Practice with me. What made you decide that? How did that happen? What's the story behind that? Wonderful. For example, if your friend tells you they started learning guitar, instead of saying, why, you can ask, what made you decide that? This makes your English sound friendly and natural. Another useful set of phrases is for giving advice. As an intermediate learner, you should move beyond just saying you should every time. Try phrases like, if I were you, I'd. My advice would be to, have you thought about it? Vati. These are very natural and polite ways to give suggestions. Say them aloud with me. If I were you, I'd. My advice would be to, A. Have you thought about? Excellent. Imagine your friend is nervous about speaking English in public. Instead of saying, you should practice, you can say, if I were you, I'd practice with small groups first. That sounds softer and more supportive. Now let's look at phrases for making plans. Instead of always saying, let's meet tomorrow, you can use more natural phrases like, want to catch up tomorrow? Are you free this weekend? Let's set a time to meet. These are common in daily life conversations. Repeat after me. Want to catch up tomorrow? Are you free this weekend? Let's set a time to meet. Good. Imagine you want to see a friend. Instead of just saying, let's meet tomorrow, you can say, want to catch up tomorrow? This makes your English sound more like a native speaker. Next, let's practice phrases for showing empathy. Empathy means showing that you understand someone's feelings. Instead of just saying, I understand, you can use phrases like, I know how you feel. That must be tough. I can imagine what you're going through. These make your English sound caring and supportive. Say them with me. I know how you feel. That must be tough. I can imagine what you're going through. Excellent. Imagine your friend says they failed an exam. Instead of just replying, I understand, you can say, that must be tough. I know how you feel. This shows real empathy in English. Now, let's add some phrases for storytelling. When you share stories, you need connectors that keep the listener interested. Instead of only saying, then, try using all of a sudden, before I knew it, and guess what happened next. These phrases make your stories come alive. Repeat after me. All of a sudden. Before I knew it. And guess what happened next? Great. For example, if you are telling a story about your trip, you can say, all of a sudden, it started raining so hard. And guess what happened next? We got completely soaked. This makes your English sound vivid and interesting. Let's now practice phrases for showing certainty. Instead of only saying, I'm sure, you can expand with phrases like, I'm positive about that. There's no doubt in my mind. I can say for certain. These are stronger ways to express confidence. Say them aloud. I'm positive about that. There's no doubt in my mind. I can say for certain. Excellent. Imagine your colleague asks if the project will be ready. Instead of just saying, I'm sure, you can say, there's no doubt in my mind, it will be ready by tomorrow. That sounds more confident and fluent. Now let's explore phrases for showing uncertainty. Sometimes you don't want to sound too direct. Instead of saying, I don't know, you can use phrases like, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to check on that. It's hard to say. These phrases sound more polite and fluent. Practice with me. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to check on that. It's hard to say. Wonderful. Imagine someone asks, when will the teacher arrive? Instead of only saying, I don't know, you can say, I'm not quite sure, but I think she'll be here soon. That sounds much better. Now let's add some everyday emotional phrases. Emotions are part of daily life, so let's expand your vocabulary for expressing them. For happiness, you can say, I'm over the moon. I'm thrilled about it. That made my day. For sadness, you can say, I'm feeling down. That really upset me. I'm heartbroken. These give you variety in real conversations. Repeat after me. I'm over the moon. I'm thrilled about it. That mad? My day. Good. And now, the sad ones. I'm feeling down. That really upset me. I'm heartbroken. Excellent. For example, if your friend gives you a surprise gift, you can say, wow, I'm over the moon. This made my day. On the other hand, if you miss an important event, you can say, I'm really feeling down about it. This shows a deeper emotional range in English. Let's also practice phrases for politeness in shops or restaurants. Instead of always saying, I want, which sounds too direct, you can say, I'd like. Could I have? I'll take. These are polite and natural for ordering food or buying something. Say them with me. I'd like. Could I have? I'll take. Great. For example, in a cafe you can say, I'd like a cup of coffee, please. Or in a store you can say, I'll take this one, thank you. These sound polite and confident at the same time. Now let's go into phrases for expressing preferences. Instead of always saying, I like, try expanding with, I'd rather, I prefer, I'm more into. These give your English more variety. Repeat after me. I'd rather. I prefer. I'm more into. Wonderful. For example, if someone asks you tea or coffee instead of just saying, I like tea, you can say, I'd rather have tea. I prefer it over coffee. This sounds smooth and natural. Finally, let's learn phrases for small talk. Small talk is very important in English, especially with people you don't know well. You can use phrases like, lovely weather today, isn't it? Have you been keeping busy? So, what do you do? These are great conversation starters. Say them aloud with me. Lovely weather today, isn't it? Have you been keeping busy? So, what do you do? Great. Imagine you meet someone new at an event. Instead of staying silent, you can start with, have you been keeping busy? This makes you sound confident and sociable. Now, let's continue with phrases you can use when you want to encourage someone. Encouragement is an important part of communication, especially when friends, classmates, or colleagues feel uncertain. Instead of just saying, good luck, you can expand your expressions. Try, you've got this. I believe in you. Don't worry, you'll do great. These phrases are very supportive and natural. Practice with me now. You've got this. I believe in you. Don't worry, you'll do great. Excellent. For example, if your friend is about to take an exam, instead of only saying, good luck, you can say, don't worry, you'll do great. I believe in you. That sounds warmer and more motivating. Another useful set of phrases is for congratulating others. Celebrating achievements in English helps you build stronger connections. Instead of always saying congratulations, you can try well done. I'm so proud of you. That's fantastic news. These add variety and emotion. Say them aloud with me. Well done. I'm so proud of you. That's fantastic news. Wonderful. For example, if your colleague gets a promotion, you can say, that's fantastic news. Well done. I'm so proud of you. This makes your English sound natural and supportive. Now let's look at phrases for offering help. Instead of only saying, can I help, you can use phrases like, do you need a hand? Would you like me to help you with that? Is there anything I can do for you? These are more natural and show willingness. Practice with me. Do you need a hand? Would you like me to help you with that? Is there anything I can do for you? Great. For example, if you see a friend carrying heavy bags, instead of just saying, can I help, you can say, do you need a hand with those? That sounds friendlier and more fluent. Now let's practice phrases for asking for permission. Instead of only saying, can I? And you can use more polite alternatives like, is it okay if I? Would it be all right if I? Do you mind if I? These sound soft and polite in English. Say them aloud with me. Is it okay if I? Would it be all right if I? Do you mind if I? Excellent. For example, if you want to leave a little early from class, instead of saying, can I leave? You can say, would it be all right if I left a bit early today? That's more respectful and fluent. Let's now add some phrases for responding to bad news. Sometimes, someone may share something sad with you, and you want to show sympathy. Instead of just saying, sorry, you can say, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's really unfortunate. My heart goes out to you. These sound gentle and supportive. Repeat after me. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's really unfortunate. My heart goes out to you. Wonderful. For example, if your friend says their pet is sick, instead of just saying sorry, you can say, "I'm so sorry to hear that. My heart goes out to you." This shows compassion in English. Now let's practice phrases for expressing joy for others. These are great when someone shares happy news. Instead of only saying, "That's good," you can use, "I'm so happy for you." "That's wonderful to hear." "That makes me smile." These sound warm and genuine. Say them with me. "I'm so happy for you." "That's wonderful to hear." "That makes me smile." Good. For example, if your friend says they just passed their driving test, instead of saying, "That's good," you can say, "I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful to hear." This makes your English sound more connected. Let's also learn some phrases for showing politeness in formal conversations. These are important for work, school, or professional situations. Instead of saying, "I want," you can say, "I would appreciate it if." Instead of saying, "Tell me," you can say, "Could you kindly?" And instead of saying, "Wait," you can say, "May I ask you to hold on a moment?" These are polite and professional. Practice with me. I would appreciate it if. Could you kindly? May I ask you to hold on a moment? Excellent. For example, in a workplace email or meeting, instead of saying, "Tell me the details," you can say, "Could you kindly share the details with me?" That sounds more professional and fluent. Now let's add some phrases for expressing uncertainty in opinions. Instead of only saying, "Maybe," you can try, "It could be." "I suppose so." "I'm not completely sure, but." These are useful in discussions when you want to sound natural but not too direct. Say them aloud. "It could be." "I suppose so." "I'm not completely sure, but." Great. Imagine someone asks, "Do you think it will rain today?" Instead of only saying, "Maybe," you can say, "I suppose so, but I'm not completely sure." That sounds more fluent and conversational. Now let's look at phrases for asking for clarification in conversations. Instead of saying, "What does that mean?" all the time, you can vary with, "Could you explain that a little more?" "What do you mean by that?" "Can you give me an example?" These are polite and useful. Practice with me. "Could you explain that a little more?" "What do you mean by that?" "Can you give me an example?" Wonderful. For example, if someone uses a new phrase you don't know, instead of saying "what," you can say, "Can you give me an example?" That shows curiosity and makes your English sound smoother. Let's now practice phrases for giving yourself time in conversations. Sometimes you need a second to think. Instead of staying silent, you can say, "Let me see." That's an interesting point. Give me a moment to think about that. These help you manage conversations naturally. Say them with me. Let me see. That's an interesting point. Give me a moment to think about that. Great. Imagine someone asks you, "What's your opinion about climate change?" And you need time. You can reply, "That's an interesting point. Give me a moment to think about that." This keeps the conversation flowing smoothly. Now let's continue with phrases you can use when making phone calls. Speaking on the phone in English can feel different because you don't see the person's face. Instead of only saying "hello," you can start politely with, "Hello, this is Natasha speaking." Or if you're calling someone, you can say, "Hi, may I speak to?" And if you're answering a work call, you can use, "Good morning, how can I help you?" These phrases make your phone conversations smoother. Practice with me now. Hello, this is your name speaking. Hi, may I speak to? Good morning, how can I help you? Excellent. Imagine you call your friend's home and their parent answers. Instead of saying, Is John there? You can politely say, Hi, may I speak to John, please? That sounds respectful and fluent. Now let's add some phrases for dealing with misunderstandings. In real life, communication isn't always perfect. Instead of just saying no or wrong, you can say, Actually, what I meant was, I think you misunderstood me. Let me put it another way. These help you correct the situation politely. Say them aloud. Actually, what I meant was, I think you misunderstood me. Let me put it another way. Great. For example, if someone thinks you said Friday but you meant Friday next week, you can clarify by saying, Actually, what I meant was next Friday. That sounds polite and clear. Let's now practice phrases for everyday shopping situations. When you go shopping, instead of just saying, How much, you can say, How much does this cost? Could you tell me the price of this? Do you have this in a different size or color? These are very common and polite in shops. Practice with me. How much does this cost? Could you tell me the price of this? Do you have this in a different size or color? Wonderful. Imagine you're at a clothing store and you want another size. Instead of only saying, Do you have medium? You can say, Do you have this in a medium size, please? That sounds smoother and polite. Now let's look at phrases for expressing agreement in casual conversations. Sometimes we want to show we agree with a friend in a friendly way. Instead of just saying, Yes, you can use exactly. That's right. I was just thinking the same thing. These are short, natural responses. Say them aloud with me. Exactly. That's right. I was just thinking the same thing. Great. For example, your friend says learning English is easier if you practice every day. You can reply, Exactly. I was just thinking the same thing. That feels smooth and natural. Now, let's practice phrases for being polite in restaurants. Instead of saying, Give me water, you can politely say, Could I have some water, please? Or instead of, I want the chicken, you can say, I'll have the chicken, please. And when you're finished eating, you can say, Could we have the check, please? These phrases make you sound polite and natural in dining situations. Repeat after me. Could I have some water, please? I'll have the chicken, please. Could we have the check, please? Excellent. Imagine you're at a restaurant and the waiter asks for your order. Instead of saying, I want pizza, you can say, I'll have the pizza, please. That's smoother and polite. Another important group of phrases is for asking about time. Instead of just saying, What time is it? You can expand with, Could you tell me the time, please? Do you know what time it is? What time does it start? These are useful in daily life. Say them with me. Could you tell me the time, please? Do you know what time it is? What time does it start? Wonderful. For example, if you're waiting for a movie instead of asking time, you can say, Do you know what time it starts? That sounds more polite and conversational. Let's now add some phrases for expressing possibilities. Instead of always saying, maybe, try these alternatives. There's a chance that it might be possible. Who knows, maybe. These are more colorful and natural in conversation. Practice aloud. There's a chance that it might be possible. Who knows, maybe. Great. Imagine your friend asks if you'll join the trip next month. Instead of just saying, maybe, you can say, there's a chance that I can join. I'll let you know soon. That feels smoother. Now, let's practice phrases for expressing preferences in daily choices. Instead of only saying, I like, try, I'm a big fan of. I really enjoy. I'd rather go with. These give your English more variety and fluency. Say them with me. I'm a big fan of. I really enjoy. I'd rather go with. Excellent. For example, if someone asks tea or coffee, instead of just saying, I like tea, you can say, I'm a big fan of tea. I really enjoy it in the morning. That feels more complete and fluent. Now let's add some phrases for ending phone calls politely. Instead of just saying bye, you can say, it was nice talking to you. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for calling. These are polite and natural. Repeat after me. It was nice talking to you. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for calling. Great. For example, if a friend calls to check in, instead of ending with just bye, you can say, it was nice talking to you. I'll talk to you soon. That's warm and fluent. Finally, let's practice some phrases for showing excitement and enthusiasm in everyday life. Instead of just saying, great, you can use these. That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be fun. These keep your English lively and full of energy. Say them aloud. That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be fun. Excellent. For example, if someone invites you to a weekend trip, you can say, that's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. That makes your English sound full of life. Now, let's move into phrases you can use when traveling. Travel English is very practical because it helps you in airports, hotels, and new places. Instead of only saying, where is, you can use, could you tell me how to get to? Is this the right way to? How far is it from here? These sound polite and natural when asking for directions. Practice with me. Could you tell me how to get to? Is this the right way to? How far is it from here? Excellent. For example, if you are in a new city and want to find the train station, instead of saying, where is train station? You can say, could you tell me how to get to the train station? That's smoother and more polite. Now let's add phrases for checking into hotels. Instead of just saying, room, you can say, I have a reservation under the name. Could I check in, please? What time is checkout? These are common and important when traveling. Say them aloud. I have a reservation under the name. Could I check in, please? What time is checkout? Great. For example, when you arrive at a hotel, instead of only saying reservation, you can politely say, I have a reservation under the name Natasha. That feels professional and fluent. Let's also practice phrases for airports. Instead of only saying ticket, you can say, where is the check-in counter? Could you tell me the boarding gate? What time do we start boarding? These help you travel smoothly. Repeat after me. Where is the check-in counter? Could you tell me the boarding gate? What time do we start boarding? Excellent. Imagine you are at an airport and do want to confirm the gate. Instead of saying, where gate, you can say, could you tell me the boarding gate for this flight? That sounds natural and polite. Now, let's add some phrases for making conversations with strangers. Small talk is important when you meet new people while traveling or at events. Instead of just saying, hello, you can try, where are you from? Is this your first time here? What brings you here today? These are natural ways to start conversations. Say them aloud with me. Where are you from? Is this your first time here? What brings you here today? Wonderful. For example, if you are at a language event, you can ask, "Is this your first time here?" That's a friendly and natural way to start talking. Now, let's practice phrases for buying tickets or services. Instead of saying one ticket, you can say, "I'd like to buy one ticket, please," or "Could I get 2 tickets for tonight's show?" or "How much is a ticket for one adult?" These are polite and commonly used. Repeat after me. "I'd like to buy one ticket, please." "Could I get 2 tickets for tonight's show?" "How much is a ticket for one adult?" Excellent. For example, at a train station, instead of saying one ticket, you can say, "I'd like to buy one ticket to London, please." That sounds much better. Now let's learn phrases for emergencies. It's always good to know what to say in difficult situations. Instead of just saying help, you can use, "I need help, please." "Can you call the police?" "I need a doctor right away." These phrases are important and clear. Say them aloud with me. "I need help, please." "Can you call the police?" "I need a doctor right away." Excellent. For example, if someone feels sick suddenly, you can say, "I need a doctor right away." This is direct and useful in emergencies. Let's also practice phrases for shopping in markets. Instead of just saying price, you can use, "How much is this?" "Can you give me a discount?" "Do you accept credit cards?" These are very practical in everyday shopping situations. Practice with me. "How much is this?" "Can you give me a discount?" "Do you accept credit cards?" Wonderful. For example, at a street market, instead of pointing and saying, "Price," you can ask, "How much is this?" That makes you sound more fluent and polite. Now let's add some phrases for making polite suggestions in groups. Instead of just saying, "Let's go," you can say, "Shall we go now?" "Why don't we try this place?" "What if we do it another way?" These are softer and sound cooperative. Say them with me. "Shall we go now?" "Why don't we try this place?" "What if we do it another way?" Great! For example, if you're with friends deciding where to eat, you can say, "Why don't we try that new restaurant?" That's natural and sounds friendly. Now let's practice phrases for expressing agreement politely in formal situations. Instead of only saying yes, you can say, "I completely agree with you." "That's exactly how I feel." "You make a valid point." These are professional and useful in meetings. Repeat after me. "I completely agree with you." "That's exactly how I feel." "You make a valid point." Wonderful. Imagine you're in a meeting and your colleague suggests a new idea. Instead of just saying yes, you can say, "That's exactly how I feel. You make a valid point." That leaves a strong impression. Now let's add some phrases for politely interrupting. Sometimes in conversations or meetings, you need to speak, but you don't want to be rude. Instead of just talking over someone, you can say, "Sorry to interrupt, but can I add something here? If I may just say one thing." These are polite ways to interrupt. Say them aloud with me. "Sorry to interrupt, but can I add something here? If I may just say one thing." Excellent. For example, during a meeting, instead of cutting someone off, you can say, "Sorry to interrupt, but can I add something That makes you sound polite and professional. Finally, let's practice phrases for checking understanding in a group. Instead of saying, "Understand," you can use, "Does that make sense?" Are you with me so far? Do you follow what I mean? These are very natural and friendly ways to check understanding. Repeat after me. Does that make sense? Are you with me so far? Do you follow what I mean? Great. For example, if you're explaining something to a classmate, instead of saying understand, you can ask, does that make sense? That feels natural and polite. Now let's practice phrases for handling invitations. When someone invites you, it's important to respond politely, whether you accept or decline. Instead of just saying yes or no, you can use, I'd love to, thanks for inviting me. That sounds great, I'll be there. Or, if you can't go, you can say, I really appreciate the invitation, but I won't be able to make it. These are very polite and natural. Practice with me. I'd love to, thanks for inviting me. That sounds great, I'll be there. I really appreciate the invitation, but I won't be able to make it. Excellent. For example, if your friend invites you to a dinner party, instead of only saying no, you can say, I really appreciate the invitation, but I won't be able to make it this time. That keeps the conversation polite and warm. Now let's look at phrases for expressing preferences when making choices with others. Instead of just saying, I like this, you can use, I'd rather go with this option. This works better for me. I think I'd prefer this one. These help you sound clear but still polite. Say them aloud with me. I'd rather go with this option. This works better for me. I think I'd prefer this one. Wonderful. For example, if your friends are choosing a movie, instead of only saying, I like action, you can say, I think I'd prefer an action movie. This works better for me tonight. That sounds smoother and more natural. Now let's practice phrases for showing surprise in polite conversations. Instead of just saying, really, every time, you can use, that's incredible. You don't say, is that so? These are great for reacting to unexpected news. Repeat after me. That's incredible. You don't say, is that so? Excellent. For example, if a colleague tells you they can speak 5 languages, instead of just saying, really, you can say, that's incredible. You don't say. That sounds enthusiastic and engaged. Let's now explore phrases for expressing frustration politely. Sometimes you feel annoyed, but you don't want to sound rude. Instead of just saying, this is bad, you can say, this is a bit frustrating. I'm not too happy with this. I wish this was easier. These soften your frustration but still express your feelings. Say them with me. This is a bit frustrating. I'm not too happy with this. I wish this was easier. Great. Imagine you're using a new app and it keeps crashing. Instead of saying, this is bad, you can say, this is a bit frustrating. I wish this was easier to use. That sounds natural and polite. Now let's add some phrases for asking for opinions. Instead of always saying, what do you think? You can vary with, how do you feel about this? What's your take on this? Do you agree with that? These make your English more colorful and engaging. Practice aloud with me. How do you feel about this? What's your take on this? Do you agree with that? Excellent. For example, if you and your classmates are discussing a project, instead of only saying, what do you think? You can ask, what's your take on this? That feels very natural. Now let's practice phrases for agreeing politely but gently. Instead of just saying, yes, you can say, I think you're right about that. I agree to some extent. That's a fair point. These are siyas, often used in discussions. Say them aloud. I think you're right about that. I agree to some extent. That's a fair point. Wonderful. For example, in a discussion about studying methods, if someone says listening practice is very important, you can reply, "That's a fair point. I think you're right about that." This makes your English sound very smooth. Now let's look at phrases for changing the subject. Sometimes in conversations you want to move to a new topic politely. Instead of just saying something random, you can use, "By the way," "Speaking of that," "Before I forget." These make transitions smooth. Practice with me. By the way, speaking of that, before I forget. Excellent. For example, if you're talking about work and you suddenly remember a movie, you can say, "By the way, have you seen that new movie?" This makes the change of subject sound natural. Now, let's add phrases for confirming details. Instead of only saying, "Okay," you can say, "So, just to confirm, let me make sure I've got this right. We're meeting at 5, correct?" These help you clarify and avoid misunderstandings. Say them aloud with me. "So, just to confirm, let me make sure I've got this right. We're meeting at 5, correct?" Great. For example, if a teacher tells you about an assignment, you can reply, "So, just to confirm, we need to submit this by Friday, right?" That's polite and professional. Now let's practice phrases for showing appreciation in daily conversations. Instead of only saying, "Thanks," you can expand with, "That was very kind of you. I really appreciate your help. Thanks a lot. I owe you one." These sound warmer and more expressive. Repeat after me. "That was very kind of you. I really appreciate your help. Thanks a lot. I owe you one." Wonderful. For example, if a friend helps you carry your bags, you can say, "That, thanks a lot. I owe you one." That sounds friendly and natural. Finally, let's learn phrases for politely ending conversations with acquaintances. Instead of just saying goodbye, you can say, "It was great running into you. I'll let you get going. Take care, see you around." These leave a nice impression. Say them aloud. "It was great running into you. I'll let you get going. Take care, see you around." Excellent. For example, if you meet someone at the supermarket and finish talking, you can say, "It was great running into you. Take care, see you around." That feels friendly and natural. Now let's move into phrases you can use in professional settings. Workplace English often requires polite, clear communication. Using the right phrases can make you sound confident and fluent. Instead of just saying, "I don't know," you can use, "I'll find out and get back to you. I'll need to double check that. Let me confirm and I'll let you know." These phrases show responsibility and professionalism. Practice with me. "I'll find out and get back to you. I'll need to double check that. Let me confirm and I'll let you know." Excellent. Imagine your manager asks a question you can't answer immediately. Instead of saying, "I don't know," you can say, "I'll need to double check that and get back to you." That makes you sound reliable and fluent. Now let's practice phrases for making polite requests at work. Instead of just saying, "Send me this," you can say, "Could you please send me this by tomorrow? I'd appreciate it if you could share the details. Would you be able to send that over?" These are more professional and friendly. Say them aloud with me. Could you please send me this by tomorrow? I'd appreciate it if you could share the details. Would you be able to send that over? Great. For example, if you need a report from a colleague, instead of saying, "Send me the report," you can say, "I'd appreciate it if you could share the report with me by the end of the day." That sounds polite and clear. Now let's add some phrases for giving updates. Instead of only saying "done," you can say, "I've completed the task you asked for. Here's the update on the project so far. Everything is on track." These help you sound professional and fluent when sharing progress. Repeat after me. I've completed the task you asked for. Here's the update on the project so far. Everything is on track. Excellent. Imagine you finish a school assignment and want to tell your teacher. Instead of just saying "done," you can say, "I've completed the task you asked for." That feels professional and respectful. Now, let's practice phrases for offering opinions in meetings. Instead of just saying, "I think," you can use, "In my experience," "From my perspective." What I've noticed is, these make your contributions sound stronger and more professional. Say them with me. In my experience, from my perspective. What I've noticed is, wonderful. For example, in a meeting about improving study habits, instead of just saying, "I think practice is important," you can say, "From my perspective, regular practice makes the biggest difference." That sounds more fluent. Let's now practice phrases for handling disagreements politely in professional settings. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," you can use, "I see it a little differently." That's an interesting point, but I respect your opinion, however. These show respect while still giving your own view. Practice aloud. I see it a little differently. That's an interesting point, but I respect your opinion, however. Great. For example, if a colleague suggests a plan you don't agree with, instead of saying "no," you can say, "I respect your opinion, however I see it a little differently." That makes your English more professional. Now let's move into phrases for social conversations with colleagues. Instead of just saying, "How are you?" every time, you can ask, "How's your day going so far? Did you do anything fun over the weekend? How are things at your end?" Excellent. For example, if you see a colleague in the morning, instead of saying only, "How are you?" you can ask, "How's your day going so far?" That shows interest and sounds natural. Now let's practice phrases for handling delays politely. Sometimes things don't go as planned. Instead of only saying "late," you can say, "I'm running a little behind schedule. Sorry for the delay. I appreciate your patience. There's been a slight change of plans." These are very useful in daily professional life. Repeat after me. I'm running a little behind schedule. Sorry for the delay. I appreciate your patience. There's been a slight change of plans. Great. Imagine you are late to a meeting. Instead of saying "sorry late," you can say, "I'm running a little behind schedule. Thank you for waiting." That sounds polite and fluent. Now, let's add phrases for showing enthusiasm at work or school. Instead of just saying "okay," you can use, "I'd be happy to help with that." That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to working on this. These add energy to your communication. Say them aloud. I'd be happy to help with that. That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to working on this. Excellent. For example, if your teacher gives you a new project, instead of just saying, okay, you can say, that sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to working on this. That makes your English sound more positive. Now let's practice phrases for showing gratitude in formal settings. Instead of only saying thank you can expand with, thank you for your support. I really appreciate your guidance. I'm grateful for your help on this. These make your gratitude more professional and respectful. Repeat after me. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate your guidance. I'm grateful for your help on this. Wonderful. For example, after a teacher helps I'll understand something. Instead of saying just thanks, you can say, I really appreciate your guidance on this. That sounds respectful and fluent. Finally, let's practice phrases for closing professional conversations. Instead of only saying goodbye, you can use, thank you for your time today. I look forward to speaking with you again. Let's stay in touch. These are polite closings that leave a good impression. Say them with me. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to speaking with you again. Let's stay in touch. Excellent. For example, after a business call, instead of only saying bye, you can say, thank you for your time today. I look forward to speaking with you again. That feels smooth and professional. Now let's practice phrases you can use in friendly conversations with neighbors or acquaintances. These are simple but very useful for daily life. Instead of just saying hi, you can say, good to see you again. How's everything with you? It's been a while, hasn't it? These sound warm and conversational. Practice with me. Good to see you again. How's everything with you? It's been a while, hasn't it? Excellent. For example, if you meet a neighbor in the street, instead of just saying hi, you can say, good to see you again. How's everything with you? That feels natural and friendly. Now, let's add some phrases for expressing opinions politely in casual situations. Instead of only saying, I think, you can try, personally, I feel. As far as I'm concerned, what I believe is. These give your speech variety and smoothness. Say them aloud. Personally, I feel. As far as I'm concerned, what I believe is. Wonderful. For example, if you're talking about food with a friend, instead of only saying, I think pizza is good, you can say, personally, I feel pizza is the best comfort food. That makes you sound more fluent. Now let's look at phrases for showing agreement casually. Instead of only saying yes, you can use totally, for sure, absolutely. These are short, but very natural. Repeat after me. Totally. For sure. Absolutely. Excellent. For example, if your friend says, this weather is amazing, instead of just saying yes, you can say, absolutely, it's perfect today. That's more natural. Now let's practice phrases for expressing doubt. Instead of just saying, maybe not, you can use, I'm not convinced. I have my doubts about that. I'm not really sure about this. These are useful when you're not completely agreeing. Say them aloud. I'm not convinced. I have my doubts about that. I'm not really sure about this. Great. For example, if someone says learning English is easy, you might reply, I'm not convinced. I think it takes a lot of practice. That sounds natural and polite. Now, let's explore phrases for showing curiosity when meeting someone new. Instead of only saying, tell me more, you can ask, how did you get into that? What got you interested in this? That sounds interesting. Can you share more? These keep conversations engaging. Practice with me. How did you get into that?